Hi, my name's Paul Meads, and if you're watching this video, it's probably because you've seen one of my blog articles relating to remuneration planning. And what I've done is I keep on getting asked about remuneration planning by clients, so I've put together a graph to try to explain some of the basics behind it. However, it's very important to understand that remuneration planning is bespoke to each individual because people have different personal goals, they have different costs of living, they may have different forms of income like rental income, pensions, interest investment. You also have to consider national insurance contributions, corporation tax rates if you're in business, etc. But the basic starting point is this graph that I've put together. So what is there for me to explain to you and the changes we've had in just recently in moving from the 2019-20 to the 2021 tax year? Well, the most obvious statement, I guess, is to say that actually pretty much nothing has changed. So the personal allowance has been confirmed at £12,500 for the next year, that being the amount before we all pay tax as individuals in the UK. The basic rate tax band stands at £37,500, so therefore covers income between £12,500 and £50,000 and is a static basic rate tax of 20% as it was last year. Nice round figures, therefore nice and easy for us all to remember. The dividend tax for those of us that are small business owners paying dividends remains at 7.5% during the basic rate tax band, apart from the first £2,000, which is covered by the dividend tax allowance where the dividend tax rate is 0, and this is represented on the graph by a very small orange line, sometimes difficult to see, but that's our 0 rate dividend tax allowance. Once we go above £50,000 worth of income, we move into the higher rate of tax, which is 40% as previously for general income, and for dividend income this rate is now 32.5%, that being the 25% in the higher rate plus 7.5% dividend tax. Important to note, the parent warning zone between £50,000 and £60,000 remains the same, and that is because in this area, for every £100 that you earn over £50,000, you lose 1% of your child benefit claim, which you have to therefore repay as part of the self-assessment process, which you pay tax every January and possibly July. The point at which we then hit the next threshold, which is over and above £100,000, and that is where you have an effective tax rate of 60%. And so this is a very large warning area for anybody above that rate. And it's because essentially you start to then lose your personal allowance. For every £2 over 100,000 that you earn, £1 comes off your personal allowance. So therefore, by the time you get to 125,000, 25,000 being 12,500 personal allowance times 2, you have effectively lost all of your personal allowance and then are still being taxed at 40% up until the 150,000, which is actually, that's when the additional rate comes in. It was higher rate prior to that, it's additional rate above £150,000, and that gives you a general income tax rate of 45%. And if you're still receiving dividends above that level, it's 38.1%. So I guess my advice or guidance is when you look at the two areas that are particularly high tax rates, the 50 to 60,000 and the 100 to 125,000, if you have any chance at all, don't get stuck in these zones, blast through them, and hopefully you can come out the other side whereby the tax burden is on a lesser scale than it is in those two zones. One last thing to mention is that although tax is supposed to be getting simpler, something that's not mentioned in these graphs is that we now have a different level at which employees and employers pay national insurance, which is very important for small business owners and contractors alike. And it will be very important for you to understand what your new remuneration strategy should be going forward from April 2021. For most business owners and contractors, I would expect this to be £792 per month, but there will be a national insurance burden for you to bear in mind as part of that. And if you want any further information on that, please feel free to contact us. I hope that's been useful. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to contact me. Thanks very much.